Well, joining us now, let's get her thoughts on it. Let's go right to the lady of the moment, One Nation leader, Pauline Hanson. Pauline, great to see you. We've been talking about you are the only politician that Australians are getting behind, certainly conservative, centre-right, whatever you want to call it, non-woke, non-lefty Australians. It's Australia Day tomorrow. In all seriousness, can One Nation form government?
It depends on the voter out there, Rowan. I'm not going to, overexpose myself in the fact that, yes, we can and we're going to get there and all the rest of it. It's going to be very hard to get there. As you know, I've got 4 seats in the Senate. We've only got the 1 seat in the lower house with Barnaby Joyce. The fact of the matter is we have to stand candidates in every seat, which we have done in the past. We have to get the public's #1 vote. We have to have that #1 vote. If we get the #1 vote and we get the majority of the votes, the majority of the lower house seats, yes, we can form government. But it's a big ask. And I'm being honest with myself and honest with people. But it is possible. But I think that we'll probably get government in the states before eventually in the federal parliament. But there's nothing stopping us from being opposition first, then working our way towards government.
James.
Well, Pauline, just to look at the history of the UK reform movement, we've seen how this goes, and now they're on track to form that government. When it comes to standing candidates in seats in the lower house across the country, how open are you to taking on more nationals coming across from that party, and also potentially even doing some sort of more of a formal tie-up with the Nationals who already have that formal branch structure in so many electorates where you would be able to then, have much more of the infrastructure to run lower house campaigns?
Well, we do have the infrastructure to run the lower house campaigns, James, by all means. The fact is that, preferences haven't flown our way. We've got the Labor, the Greens, these other organisations out there, left-leaning, small organisations that are flowing the preferences away from One Nation. The polling shows us that in some rural and regional areas, we're polling as high as 40% of the vote. Now that will win us seats, by all means. But like I said, it's 2 years outside the election. We've got a lot of work to do. I've got to put out my policies to prove to people that we can do it. We do have the answers to a lot of problems that we have. So don't mistake what I'm saying. I intend to go for it. I'm not going to sit back on my laurels and see this country go down the drain as it has there's no leadership. Albanese is the worst Prime Minister I have ever seen. There's no leadership in the Liberal Party. They're fighting with each other, which makes me so mad. In the state of the country, they're all, no, I want to be leader, I want to be leader, I want to be leader. And there's no leadership whatsoever. And I called it out with Leigh last year. I don't see her as a leader. She doesn't enthuse me. She doesn't give me confidence. I don't believe she knows what she's doing. And as you said, Rita, those laws that were passed, I picked it right from the very beginning. They should never have been passed. And yet they went ahead with it. Why? To be seen. You can't just be seen to be doing things. People want leadership. People want strong decisions. And they picked it wrong. Very wrong.
Rita.
We haven't really had a true centre-right conservative option for a number of years now. I know traditionally you lot haven't always got along, but can you see One Nation and the Nationals, now that they've broken up with the Libs, getting together, having that infrastructure across the country and perhaps being a coalition, a true conservative coalition?
Rita, I'm not going to rule anything in or out. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to take on another organisation, another party, where you're going to have, factions or infighting. I built this party so we don't have any of that. And that's what we need in this country. I'm not going to say that you're going to disagree on policy, where we go with this, where we go with that. If people come across, it has to be to One Nation. I'm not going to, I haven't taken years out of my life to rebuild this party a second time for those people who had their own agenda, wanted to take over, which they did. Where are they now? All gone. I'm still standing. So I'm not going to allow my party to be taken over by those. People have joined One Nation to support me. They didn't come on board One Nation to support the National Party. So it's about, yes, the Conservatives need to get our heads together if we want to defeat the Labor Party and the Greens that are destroying this country. I don't have an ego, but I am determined to make it work.
So, Pauline, one thing we barely heard about during all the debate after Bondi, there's nonsense about guns and all this rubbish about free speech and dreadful laws coming in. We heard very little from the Parliament about banning or preventing radical Islam. What is One Nation's position on radical Islam?
To ban it completely, and as I said, it's too late trying to deal with the people once they're in the country. You deal with the people before they come into the country. And a lot of these countries, I'd say, you don't have anyone coming out from them. And you have to have an agreement with these countries. If we find them to be of ill character and we don't want them in the country, we should be able to put them on a plane, send them back straight away. A lot of the countries will not accept their citizens back again. Unless we have an agreement with them, they don't come out here on any type of visa, students or, to visit the country. I don't trust them. I don't want them in the country. We've seen the way that Britain has gone with Islam, with these radicals out there, the fundamentalists that have taken over the country. England's finished. And if we don't do something about it now, we are going to be exactly the same in the next 5 to 10 years. So my attitude is, this is not an Islamic country. This is a Judeo-Christian country. And we must stand by our values, our democracy and freedom of speech, and we treat women the right way. And I will keep pushing that all the time.
And just on values, Pauline, I mean, it is Australia Day. Would you like to see a greater emphasis on the assimilation side of the equation? That word has become a really dirty word. And, we've heard all sorts of people say, oh, no, we're all multicultural. You keep your culture and you come and be Australian. But do you think the government needs to be doing, and if you get power, if you take power, would you have a much more formalized process for people who do come, who you do let into the country, to say, these are our values and you are expected to, if you have values that conflict with these values, leave them at the door, not just say, in the airy-fairy way that Albanese does, but actually, enforce that?
James, most definitely. And what we don't do is we don't encourage them to assimilate because they don't have to speak the English language. They'd have to have a knowledge of English language before they get a foot in the door. I would make it 10 years before they get a citizenship in Australia. And also no more language government information in their language. It has to be only in English. You force them then to have to speak the language, then they can assimilate, they can communicate with other Australians. So there's a lot of things that we can do to encourage people. Start teaching about Australia in our educational system. We've lost all that, our history, where we came from, who we are as a nation. Most migrants here actually do support me because they say, Pauline, we don't want this country to become like the place that we left. So I'm encouraging those Australians out there, if you love this country, you feel that way about it, then speak up, have your voice. Explain to those ones who've never left our shores, born here, their hatred that they have for their own country. They need to travel and go and see what it's like in other countries around the world. I love Australia. I fight and I would die for my country. This is my home and I feel home here. I've travelled extensively, but I've never felt like I do in my own country. I'm going to celebrate tomorrow with many Australians and with pride and honour and dignity, and I'm going to stand strong and say, I'm an Australian.
You most certainly are, Pauline Hanson, and happy Australia Day to you and all of yours.